Welcome into Fitness Fanatics on 93.7 The Ticket and theticketfm.com. Now here are your hosts, Jeff and Nicole Essing.
All right, welcome back into the Fitness Fanatics. We are joined again from another Farrell's member from Peoria, Illinois. The first time that a gym has had two national challenge winners in the same year at the same time. So congrats to Peoria. We are joined by Kaitlyn, Willis.
Hi, everybody. How are we? Doing good.
Awesome. Thanks for joining us.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
First thing we like to do is to get to know you a little better. So something we always ask our guests, we want to know where you went, where you grew up, first of all. And then second of all, if you were active in any sports in school.
Yeah, I grew up mostly in Tremont, Illinois. So I'm about 45 minutes on the other side of the bridge. So I did play volleyball. I did shot put, discus. I did basketball, but I never really had the confidence to like put myself out there to, really put myself into the sport. So I more like sat on the bench. I never really gave anything. I didn't have confidence in myself. So
Well, I'll tell you, I sat on the bench too, but it was because I just wasn't good.
Yeah.
So I was just.
You had the heart, just not the challenge.
I was very confident.
Talent.
I wasn't good at anything.
Yeah.
So I just sat there. What was your favorite sport that you did?
Volleyball was definitely that. I started that young, more in middle school, and traveled that up. But it was just, we had some girls that were really strong, players. And if you weren't like up with them, then you weren't going to get a spot. So, I mean, I can't really complain, but it's for my own, my own self held me back.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was similar to my high school career in sports. Like, I didn't realize until I was in my 20s and really when I started Farrell's that there's a difference between being competitive and athletic. And I'm athletic. I'm just not competitive, which is why I was not really that great in team sports because I wasn't the person that was going to ever dive for the volleyball. Well, back to just real quick as we wrap up this segment, back to like your fitness life before Farrell's. So did you play like any sports after high school? Did you get into any other fitness endeavors after, before Farrell's? Like, what did that look like?
No, I didn't do much like that. I mean, I was in 2 different 5Ks, mostly walked that, mostly just to support the organization. I did a yoga class here and so nothing like anything sports
organized.
Really at all. Yeah, not at all. No.
Just kind of dipping your toes in different things.
Yeah, and that was like 5-7 years ago. So it has been, a big time gap.
Yeah, I think that's a pretty common scenario for people who start Farrell's a lot of times.
I think so.
Yeah. Usually kind of like starting over or starting for the first time, like an actual fitness
you need
routine.
Help, right?
Yeah.
We try to do things on our own. Like, you said, well, I went to a yoga class, I did this, but it's nothing like a consistent basis of what you get when you join Farrell's.
And for me, the community, not like going in there and doing myself or going into a weightlifting machine and trying to figure that out and sticking to myself. That's not for me. I need to see people. I need the camaraderie and the encouragement.
Well, and we've been at this for Nicole's going on year what for
18.
you? Year 18 for Nicole at Farrell's, and I'm like going to be I'm year 17 for me right now. And we've been teaching for so long, but like, I'm like you, if I went into just a Planet Fitness and had to go on a machine, like I'd be like, what am I even doing?
You wouldn't put in the same effort.
No, I'd be like, what am I supposed to do? Even though I've been instructing strength training for 16 years, I'd still be like, oh, do I want to, how many reps should I do? It'd just be a disaster. Yeah. And I don't think I'd get a good workout because that's the person I am. I need that group atmosphere, even to this day. Like if some classes we have, there might be just one person show up for a strength training class. And if that one, and I would teach them, but if that one person didn't show up, I don't think I could just stand up front,
do your workout by yourself,
and teach a class to work myself out.
Yeah.
That's how much just non-self motivation I have still to this day. I need that.
Yeah.
So some exciting things to get into. Well, we're going to throw it to break here.
Welcome into Fitness Fanatics on 93.7 The Ticket and theticketfm.com. Now here are your hosts, Jeff and Nicole Essig.
Welcome back to the Fitness Fanatics. Hour number 2 is sponsored by Modern Woodmen of America. Founded in 1883, Modern Woodmen offers financial services and member benefits to individuals and families throughout the U.S. For more information, please call Sean Erickson at 402-483-6515. Modern Woodmen of America, touching lives, securing futures. So big shout out to them. Sean actually had perfect attendance at the gym.
He did
this past week.
Yep.
I don't remember when the last time he had.
Just had perfect attendance a couple weeks ago. Remember, because he did.
Oh, it's okay.
Yeah. So 2 times this year. Congrats,
2 times
Sean.
This year. Big
Very
shout
proud.
out
Yes.
to Sean. Also want to give a couple birthday shout outs. One to my man Curtis. It's his birthday today. I have no idea how old he is, but I know it's his birthday. So happy birthday, Curtis. Curtis and Bridget usually listen to our show. Mostly they're just drinking a cup of coffee Sunday mornings, checking it out. So happy birthday to Curtis if you're listening. Happy birthday to Rebecca, one of the owners of the Ticket.
Yep.
And without her and DP, we wouldn't have a show. So we're grateful for them.
I wouldn't have a job.
Yeah,
That's right. Super grateful.
We're grateful for them too. So we appreciate them. So happy birthday to you too.
Yep.
All right, Kaitlyn, let's go back to the reason, like, how did you hear about Farrell's and what made you decide to actually join the 10-week challenge?
Yeah, so like I said, I'm from Tremont, and I still go over there every other week and get my nails done by a girl I went to high school with. And she actually did the 10 weeks at the East Peoria location. We have a Peoria and an East Peoria location. And I was always somebody who, I hate to admit it now, but like I would make fun of people who decided to spend 45 minutes working out. I'm like, why aren't you just sitting on the couch watching TV? Like, why are you exhorting all this energy when you can just be chilling, like
we were the same
dumb.
way. We were the same. I see people running and I'm like, what are you doing right now?
Yeah.
That
I'm like,
is
and she,
so crazy.
yeah. And then she could like barely sit. Like the first week, I remember she was like barely able to get up and down. And I'm just like, girl, you are crazy. And so
yes.
it had always been like in the back of my mind. So I knew about Farrell's. And after I had my first baby, I had all of a sudden 3 bulging discs came about in my lower back. Weren't really sure, but I couldn't walk on my right side. I couldn't carry the baby. I couldn't get up and down. So my husband would bring the baby here to work, and he would work at the restaurant by himself and take care of our baby because I couldn't physically move at all. So I was just, I struggle with mental health. That's my whole reason why. And I do get very emotional about my story. So I will apologize now because I might tear up.
Yeah. Understandable.
But mental health is my big reason why. So with the bulging disc, my mental health was just deteriorating. I had a baby and I couldn't move around. I couldn't take care of my baby. I felt like, such a failure as a first-time mom. It was, we were trying to run a business. So it was just bad. So I spent that year just like dealing with that. And then we had our second child that next April, and we had never had our honeymoon. So we decided to take a trip to the Virgin Islands, and it was the only trip we've ever taken together, and it was the worst trip we have ever taken. I couldn't move. We argued. My mental health was terrible. I had all these plans of stuff we wanted to do, but when we got there, it was like I wanted to lay in bed. I didn't want to go enjoy the things. I wanted to find every negative situation, and it was supposed to be such a good time. And I was like, I really have to change my life.
Yeah.
So when I came back, we were laying in bed and I just said, I'm signing up for this ferals. I was like, I don't really know what it is, but it's like, besides what I had heard from my nail tech. And I was like, it's right down the road. I have no excuse. I was at the point to where I did not want to wake up the next morning. Like, it was that bad.
Mhm.
And I was like, I'm doing it. Like, and it was a big chunk of money in the beginning. Like, you're
Right.
like, is this something? Like, I'm going to sign up. I signed up to go to the 6 a.m. class. And I'm like, from someone who wasn't getting out of bed to now committing that I'm going to go to 6 a.m. I kind of laughed at my husband. I'm like, okay, we'll see if I really stick this out. So that was really what got me there. And once I got going, I was up 2 hours before my alarm. I could not wait to get back.
Mhm.
So that was the whole reason what brought me to Farrell's for my 10-week challenge. But once I got started and I really walked through the doors on the first day, we got an email the night before and it was like, we do a mile run, make sure to bring tennis shoes and drink a few ounces of water or something. And I'm like, I don't drink water. I drink Mountain Dew. Like, I better drink a few cups.
Where do I get this
Yeah,
water from?
Where do I find water?
That was us. That was us in
so
our
funny.
20s. I don't think I drank a glass
Now,
of water in my 20s.
Had you gotten your picture done yet? Or was that all done on orientation day in Peoria?
On orientation day. That was, I left crying. Like, I was
All
in my
terrible
car.
stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, you walk in and bless Kurt. We have Kurt. He's out there with the megaphone and he's encouraging you as you're walking in. And I literally walk in and you see people and you're like, okay. And as I said, I'm someone that struggles with severe anxiety and I'm always in my head. So I'm like, okay. And I stepped on that scale and I was like, this is not like, is this right? Like, let's do this again. It was like, and I walked into the bathroom to go take my picture and there's a lady came out, her name's Steph Elias, and she's an amazing instructor. And she was wearing a bikini and I was like, well, what are you here for? Like, I was so taken back because she looked amazing, but now I know, like, she wanted to do the challenge, but whatever. So it was not about how she looked or whatever. And it wasn't about like how I looked, but my mindset going into it was like, well, she doesn't look like me. She doesn't need this, So it was taunting. Like, I was scared and I did one push-up, I was scared. I wasn't really sure if I made the right decision.
I know. And to talk about it, it sounds so traumatic.
It
like,
does.
Why does anybody do this?
I was kind of thinking of that. She was telling me the story. I'm like, why would anybody sign up to do ferals?
I know.
Right?
It's so true.
No, I'm just kidding.
But we've all been there,
Yes.
and it's such a common story. And the thing is, when you start anything new, it's kind of like the 5 stages of grief. It's the same thing, like those stages of fear and anxiety and self-doubt and all that. So like, that's all there when you start anything new, especially if it comes to like health and fitness, but it's just so concentrated at Farrell's. Like, it just keeps getting worse to a certain point, especially that first day.
Well,
like, you step on a scale and then so in our gym, we do that stuff ahead of time. So they come in and they meet me and then I put them on a scale and then I do their measurements and then I take their before picture. And it just seems like it just keeps getting worse and worse and worse for them. And I'm just trying to be like more and more like just clinical, like, okay, let's get this done. We're doing it. It's no big deal, but I can tell it's hard. And I know because I had to do it too. I was that person also. So we know what it's like, but it is really funny when you hear that story. And we talked about this with Wayne last week too. It is part of like a trauma bond that you kind of go through with everybody. Like, you're not the only one scared and afraid and nervous and going through it. And so I think sometimes that helps, that safety in numbers. Although your story is a little bit different than when you have, then you're like, see someone who's in really good shape and you're just like, I don't know. But the moral of the story is obviously you overcame that. So like, the scarier that beginning story is, makes the finish that much better too.
Yeah, 100%.
Yep. So you did all your stuff. How did your mile go? We don't do the timed mile here just
Okay.
because the weather is always so volatile. But how did that go for you?
It was definitely not being the last thing after being hit down, knocked down. I'm like, can't do a push-up, can't do a 7. I'm like, hey, gonna go run this mile, So I was just like, let's do it, So it took me 13 minutes, and I can't remember. I think I might have walked a little bit in there. But I was bound and determined to knock minutes off of that by the end of it, because I mean, I had never, been like a runner, but I had a goal of doing the triathlon once I got into it, and the indoor triathlon. So those were things that I was like, okay, that's going to help me, and building up the endurance at FXB, going to help me knock those minutes off of the mile.
Yep.
So,
yeah. So I know a lot of people, we talk about that initial orientation, testing, all that stuff. And then, talk about how hard the first week is for most people, and it's universal. And you talked about it in your video. So everyone who completes the national challenge does a video. And in your video, you talked just like everybody else. The workouts, especially at Farrell's, as long as you show up and you give 100%, whatever that looks like for you, or level 10, as we like to say, like that time is going to pass. You're going to improve if you just keep showing up every single day. But for you, just like everyone else, the hardest part was changing the nutrition habits, right?
Yeah, most definitely.
So
That
kind of talk about that. We like to talk about this with people who've done it, because I think a lot of times listeners, people who are going to listen to this, like they're kind of peeking behind the curtain of like, ooh, can I do this? And they want to like see how it was for everyone else. So what was like a typical day of eating for you before you started Farrell's?
So before I started Farrell's, it was drive-through at least 3 times a day, probably McDonald's breakfast and dinner, and then I would go somewhere else for lunch. We'll get 460, which is our restaurant. I'd have pizza. It was always fast food. So pick a fast food place, and that's where I was, no water. It was soda, my big Coke from McDonald's, or my Mountain Dew from, the restaurant. So that, in every sweet, I love, sweets. When we started this, they're like, what's the one thing you're going to miss? And I'm like, cookies, cupcakes, candy, but, like sweets. So that was pretty much like, and every night before I went to bed, it'd be some type of sweet. So that obviously wasn't good.
So how did you make that transition then? Like, were you, because, we tell people to ease themselves in, but some people are an all or nothing. So were you like an all in, okay, I'm going to go in and I'm going to clean out everything and go start from scratch? Or were you kind of like, let's make this sustainable and make it a process?
Mine, since my husband, he doesn't eat what I eat, he does his own thing. So like I have like my own section of the fridge where I keep my stuff, or on the cabinet or whatever. But really, I feel like mine's different a lot because I didn't weigh out a single thing. I never counted calories. I never did anything like that. I stuck to the palm fist method, which protein, palm fist, carb. For me, with having the anxiety, it was just too much to pull out a scale and get the exact number and have my kids running around. Because when I started, there were more babies. Now I have a 3-year-old and almost 2-year-old. So it's like, it was a lot. And that was not something that I was wanting to add to my plate. I was already doing all of this new stuff. So I'm like, palm fist works for me. That's what I'm going to stick to. So I just started making like little tweaks. I ate chicken veggie burgers instead of burgers. I cut out like condiments, and really reading the ingredients list. Kathy, our head owner, when I first started, she mentioned going around the outside of the grocery store and not going to the middle, because the outside is more your fresh, your meats and stuff like that. And I really, that next time I went to the grocery store, I really focused on sticking to my fruits, my veggies, my meats, just the outside, and not getting the chips. It was hard. Believe me, it was hard. I wanted to take my little buggy down that aisle, but I didn't. And I looked at it as like, am I putting this in my mouth? Is this getting me to my goal? Yeah, it's good. It doesn't have to not be healthy. It doesn't have to not be, quote unquote, good for you, but is it getting me to where I want to go for the goal that I have in mind? So that's how I looked at it. I completely cut out soda, added 120 ounces of water at least a day. I filled out, during my 10-week challenge, Kathy gave us a food log. And she said that I was the only one that filled it out every single day. I didn't write the calories. I didn't write anything like that, but I just wrote like what I ate. And then I took her up on any opportunity to have a meeting. Like, what could I do better here? What could I add in something here that would make, be better for my nutrition, but I'm more about like healthy swaps and finding like, adding PB2 peanut butter to cottage cheese or to Greek yogurt instead of, the other. Or I'm a big Built protein puff girl. And every night before bed, I have one of those as like my sweet tooth instead of the latter, So that's what I really changed. I really changed the mindset too about, like the whole approach and is this getting me to my goal?
Yeah, that's a really great place to start too. A lot of times we talk about like picking the one thing that you can do that can make the biggest impact and start with that. And so I think more people could benefit from using that as your starting point. So like for many years for the Farrell's Nutrition, we never focused on calories. We give our members calorie goals, but that's because we can give that to them based off of their in-body, their scale that tells us their BMR. But we definitely still provide them with the information about just eating 6 meals a day and focusing on that portion. Like you said, the size and thickness of your palm for the protein and your fist for your carbs. And if you just do that 6 times a day, you're going to be fueling your body all day long, and you're going to be making more whole food choices. And even if you're not, you're still sticking to a good portion size of each of those things, because even if you're eating something that's unhealthy carb, quote unquote, and you're sticking to your fist serving size, you're still going to be doing a lot better.
Like take Doritos, right?
That's like 5 Doritos, probably.
Right.
But yeah.
Size of your fist, right?
Yes.
So like, you can eat this, but I'm only getting 5 chips. So what's the point?
I think I'd rather eat something a little more substantial. But so that's a great strategy and a great way to start. And I think sometimes people think that they do have to become these like mathematicians and spreadsheets.
Yeah, and it has to be so complicated. And that's just not what it has to be at all. It doesn't have to be. Like, I've had people ask me, can you tell me exactly how you break this down or what you do? And I'm like, you're stressing yourself out by overcomplicating it, just like in like baby steps, and just like you said, reduce the palm fist. It really does help you with the portion size. Like, I wasn't eating enough food. I was eating fast food and stuff, but I wasn't eating like the 6 times a day, like it wasn't enough, but it was bad, if that makes sense.
It does, because that's very common. Like a lot of times when we are eating unhealthy foods or drive-through, you're not eating enough. Not only are you not eating enough, but what you're eating isn't even providing your body with what it needs.
Right.
And so that creates such a cycle of that binging too, or like how you were really focused, like you would reach for sweets a lot. Well, that was because you probably weren't getting enough calories and enough nutrients more than anything, but all you had available to you were those sweet foods that your brain wanted, but your body's like, can I have an apple, please? Stop giving me a cupcake. I need fiber. I need vitamin A. I need these nutrients, but you keep giving me sugar. So I think that's pretty common. I had another question, but I can't remember what it was. Do you have a question?
But I also find sorry.
No, go ahead.
I was just going to say that I find myself a lot too. I stress eat, if that makes sense. Like when I'm stressed out with my kids, I'll just like walk through the kitchen. And like I said, my husband will have his night snacks, his chips. And I'm like, okay, like I'll eat one of that. And that, like, you don't realize, like, another thing, Kathy, is that you can go through and you can grab one kiss 4 different times, but you've ate how many calories, like it's added up. It's not just that one little kiss anymore,
Yeah. And then you're creating a habit
Correct. Right.
And then I like to say, then we're almost like a lab rat where you go into the kitchen and you don't even realize you're reaching for it.
Yeah.
I did that when my kids were young. I was a stay-at-home mom, and I was getting into a really bad habit of just having like a cup of chocolate chips available all the time and just like doing that, just taking a swig of chocolate chips
Yeah.
until I'm like going through a bag of chocolate chips every 2 days. And that's when, this was before Farrell's, but that's when I had to just be like, okay, I need to break this habit. And so I cut out chocolate for a year, and it was to break that habit. I still ate like candy that wasn't chocolate, but
Caramel.
I just needed to break that habit. And I remember what I was going to say before, because another really important thing that you said that you did, along with just looking at those portion sizes, is writing down what you were eating. And I love that you said like you weren't focused on how many calories and stuff like that, but like just having it written down and having someone else to be able to look at that and give you those suggestions. That is the best way to start. Like, I would just highly recommend for anybody, if you're starting to, just not even for like accountability, but just for an awareness. And so I think, you can write your food down. You could take a picture of your meals and kind of assemble them and like look at what you're eating. And you're really able to reflect on, okay, where am I tripping up? Like, why am I feeling like I'm making this choice at this certain time? And you can trace it back to maybe I need to eat a little bit more with my lunch because at 2, I'm reaching for a candy bar. So I think that just, we recommend people track their food, but just writing down what you're eating and being able to look back on that is going to be such an important tool to learn the mental side of it. Like you said, like the mental, why am I reaching for this? Why am I doing this? And then you can look back and be like, wow, I'm sure you think now about how you used to eat. And you're just like, how was I even surviving on that? Yeah.
Oh yeah. Yeah. 100%. And like, sometimes like I tried, it was some type of sweet that I used to eat. And I'm like, this is so sweet. I couldn't even chew like the bite. And like coffee, I used to put, so much sugar and cream. And I'm like, I can't, like, I cannot even take a swig, so it's just crazy. Your body, it changes and it becomes, this is the new, like, normal,
Yes, very much so.
All right. Well, we're going to take a break. And when we come back, we'll get into the national challenge, your struggles, your ups, your downs, and we'll just keep this awesome conversation going. So stay with us on 93.7 The Ticket, the Fitness Fanatics. All right, welcome back to the Fitness Fanatics. We are joined by Kaitlyn Willis, who just a couple weeks ago got a big old check for $10,000. That's pretty awesome.
Yeah, a literal big check and a check, like literal checks.
You didn't try to go cash that big check at the bank, did you? Like
that
Happy
is
Gilmore?
like the worst dad joke, Jeff.
No, I was going to say, isn't that like a joke, a running joke?
Yes. Not that funny.
I didn't know that was a running joke. I thought Happy Gilmore was trying to cash one, so that's why I said it.
It was a joke and Happy Gilmore because it's such a joke. But anyway, okay.
So how did you do in your 10-week challenge? Like, did you win?
I did. Yeah.
Ooh, that's exciting.
All right, we're up to $11,000.
I know, that's what Liam said. I was like, I know, what else can I get into?
Yep. Very cool. So when you started though, like you started for your mental health, but was there a point where you were like, okay, maybe I can win this? Or were you like surprised that you won?
The national or the 10-week?
The 10-week.
10-week. It was for my mental. In second week, I had a swollen eye. My eye was swollen shut. I still to this day don't know why. It happened for a week. And so I still worked out with one swollen eye shut. But it was just like really to prove to me that I can do it. I can get up. I was looking forward to it. So it was my mental health. And I set that goal of having the perfect attendance through the 10-week challenge. And once I hit that, I won. I was like, you know what? Like, maybe I can keep perfect attendance for a full year. I was like, that's, we canceled our vacation. And I was like, I'm doing this. And I was like, so why not sign up for the national? It wasn't really ever like, oh, my body, like, I was struggling seeing the change with my body. I was already, because when you start, you're already not, like I did it for my mental health, but of course I wasn't 100% happy, with the way I looked,
Mm-hmm.
but I 100% was more the mental health. But once I started to see the change, and I couldn't really decide if I was like excited about the change, because when you start to lose things, you lose fat in places you don't want to lose fat, and
Mm-hmm.
you have fat in places that shouldn't be there. And so it's like, it was disheartening, but I had to look at the bigger picture. And that's when I was like, okay, I think maybe I have a chance.
Mm-hmm.
But I wasn't sure until they called my name at the party. Like, I looked at my husband, he goes, "No, it was you." And I was like, "Oh, really?" Like, I had no idea. I didn't.
Yeah, that's awesome. So then moving on to the national challenge, what were some of your like hardest challenges? And then was there anything that like kind of that 10 weeks set you up for like habits where you're like, okay, I thought I was going to struggle with this, but wasn't that bad. Did you have both of those? I know struggles are usually a little easier to kind of pinpoint.
Yeah, I mean, I thought I was gonna be struggling with getting up, but like I said, I was always up by 3:50 in the morning. I was ready to go. I mean, I wasn't the physical challenges, it was the mental challenges. There are a
Mhm.
few health things that happened that privately that really I could have let really affect me, that I've decided to just like push through, and
Mhm.
Mhm.
just being able to be strong, and show up for yourself. And once I signed up for the national challenge, I did, set that goal for the perfect attendance for the full national challenge, because I wanted to prove to myself that I could do it. Like, that
Mhm.
is hard. Like, saying that you're going to come every single day for, the whole challenge. And I did it. I had 15 months straight perfect attendance. I even worked out before my triathlon, before my indoor triathlon, before races. Like, I had that goal and I met that goal. And that just to me is amazing.
Mhm. It is amazing
So,
because it's like you're proving that you're strong. You're proving
yeah.
yourself strong. Like that's
Yeah.
a really important thing to do. And then how did you navigate? 'Cause we haven't talked about this yet, but how did you navigate like owning and operating a pizza place
Yeah.
during your, national challenge and beyond? I
Yeah.
actually think that it would be at least you did have access to a wide variety of food. So I think it actually would be a kind of a fun challenge to see how can I make this work for me? How can I
Well,
make it fit?
and I was going to ask now if there was any like new pizza creations that
Mhm.
you made over the year that's like, I mean, if I owned a pizza business, I'd be like, okay, I need to come up with a pizza that has good macros that I
Mhm.
can give this to our Farrell's members and then they can come to the restaurant and eat this. Like, so did any new creations come
Um,
out of it?
we actually, Kathy has talked. She wants me to make a menu, like a Farrell's,
Sure.
Yeah,
Kaitlyn's
there we go.
edition, type
Mhm.
menu. So that is in the works.
Mhm.
But I didn't eat pizza my whole challenge, my whole
Oh,
year. I didn't do any of that. It
You
was
didn't have pizza
salads,
at all?
chicken. No,
Oh my
I
gosh.
smelt it. I was
I don't know if
around
I could
it,
do
but
that.
smelled it.
for
Yeah.
me, it was just because if I want it, I'm just gonna want more than one piece. And it's not like I said, it wasn't getting me to the goal,
Yeah.
that I had. I had a goal if I wanted to, hit this weight by this first testing. I did a indoor triathlon, not knowing how to swim. I didn't know
Mhm.
what I was even signing up for. I signed up the day ahead, and Matt Allen at our location, he was a past national challenge, like top, I think he was in the top 20 he asked me, he's like, would you want to try this? And I'm like, what is a triathlon? And he's like, oh, it's just swim, biking, and running. And I was like, yeah, sure. So I got stuff and I showed up and I literally plugged my nose and went under. And I was like, oh, that's not swimming. That's doggy paddling. And so I
Mhm.
had 10 minutes of, I was trying to like paddle my way through. And in that moment, I said, I'm learning how to swim and I'm signing up for a triathlon.
Mhm.
So I got up every morning before Farrell's. Every other day, we had swim practice at 5 a.m. I would swim, learn how to swim for an hour, and then I would go to my Farrell's class and I would work out there. And then I would go home and be a mom. And to me, I learned how to swim because I was determined. I set my mind and I worked hard, just like this whole challenge. I've proved to myself that I can do it. Like there's no excuses. I would come up with every negative excuse, and there wasn't one, so it was just being able to do that. But no, I eat mostly, back to that, chicken and salad.
Mhm. But that's also just knowing yourself too, because I am on a lot of things an all or nothing person. Like I cannot eat, there's certain foods that I cannot portion control. Oreos, Harrison and I talk about this quite often.
Yeah,
Like,
I can't have Mountain Dew in the fridge. I say that a lot.
right. Like there's certain things that I can't have one of, because if I'm going to have one, then I'm going to eat them until they're gone. And so I understand that mindset, but man, pizza would be a tough one, especially being around it
I
all
know
the
that's our
time.
go-to. Like our free day
I know.
is
Yeah.
pizza and ice cream.
Yeah. I would
Like
be
that's
tough.
our
I could
almost
give up
every
ice
weekend.
cream before I could give up. I could easily give up ice cream, but for a year or longer. But pizza would be a tough one. But
Life without pizza is no life at all.
we have a magnet that says that
Yes.
on our fridge.
That's funny.
But there's such a, like, I think people don't consider how much doing something like this, Farrell's, the national challenge, training for things that are important to you, how much it does take that mental toughness. And for you,
Mhm.
that was just another way to prove to yourself that you can do something that's hard. And
Yeah.
a lot of
And
times
find that confidence that I've
yeah, that's
never
what I was gonna
had.
say. Yeah, we like discount what we can do. And so I think that for you, that made a lot of sense. I don't think you would necessarily recommend that for everyone, but find your thing. Find that one thing
Exactly.
that it's the barrier and try to just live without it. You'll be fine.
Mm-hmm.
Mhm.
So I
Yeah.
think that was a very interesting take, but wow, yeah, that takes a lot of
Well,
mental
and not only,
strength.
did you're done triathlons, but now you're also an instructor.
Mhm.
Is that correct?
Yeah.
So think
Yeah.
back to like, if you just like, we used to watch The Biggest Loser when it was on, and more so,
Mhm.
I like to hear the trainers talk about the mental reasons, like, when they talk to the contestants. And then we also would watch, the workouts. So I'd be like, what can I do? Can I do this in class tomorrow? Like, oh, they were doing this, I need to do this at my kickboxing class. So stuff
Right.
like that. But they always had, like, at the end, their they make videos to tell themselves, like, them future selves.
Mhm.
So it's just like, kind of, if you could go back and talk to yourself before you started Farrell's, like, if we were talking about your first day, how you're getting weighed and your body
Just
fat and you're in your
bam,
underwear and
Yeah.
bam.
you're running a mile and you do a push-up and you have to do sit-ups. You're like, oh, this is just terrible. To think back to where you are now, all the things you've accomplished, and now you're an instructor.
Mhm.
And I mean, it's one of the coolest things about Farrell's is all the instructors that, well, at least that we have all gone through the 10-week challenge. They've all gotten their picture taken.
Yeah.
They've all been through that. So they're all grown up in the Farrell's program, just like you. Like, at what point did you think, maybe I want to be an instructor? Like, what kind of brought you to that?
Um, a lot of everybody else. Everybody kept like, you would be so good. Like, just so
Peer
much
pressure.
encouragement from
Yeah.
everybody. Literally, like Kathy, she's like, I'm ready to rip that band-aid off when you're ready. Let's rip it full. Like, I would do like teach a class with somebody and she's like, you ready to fully rip that band-aid yet? Like, there was so much of people like, you're so good at it, you're formed, that's what made me be like, okay, I can do it, and still to this day, I struggle with like, you get up there and you're like, okay, everybody's watching me. They're looking at
Mhm.
you for that good workout, like they're paying to come, for you to sweat their butts off, like give them,
Mhm.
so sometimes I get in my head and I'm just like, no one knows what's on that paper down there. You do a version of a different hamstring if that's not what's working today. It doesn't have
Mhm.
to be exact. So just like telling myself that, and like you have so much like this is, you think before you get up there and you instruct like, oh, we should do it like this or should, but it is so hard to count and to instruct and to, do this. So it's like I have so much respect for like all the instructors like during my whole 10 weeks and just up until I even started. It's still just like giving such good workouts, but like, I wouldn't be
Yeah.
here without it.
It's like everything, and people looking in at your story, and it makes it look easy. Like the instructors make instructing look easy. Listening to you talk about your transformation, you make it sound easy. Oh, I just did this stuff. But realizing that it's not easy for anybody.
No.
We're all
Right.
like gears grinding behind our brains of like, how are we making this work? And so I think if you can learn that in your time at Farrell's, that it just makes you look at every other challenge in your life differently, where, you're looking at someone else doing something and they make it look so easy, but you've done so many hard things that it can't be that easy. Like they're struggling too. So if they can struggle through it and make it look easy, then I can struggle through it and make it look easy. And I think that's a mindset that maybe people don't reach when they
Yeah.
continue to quit and start over and over and over again, because they think, well, it was just easy for them.
Yep.
They don't have this, and this going on like I do. And we're hard on
Mhm.
ourselves about the things we can control and can't control. And we're easy on our things about the things that we can. So that's just, you've made a lot of like really big aha moments. It's like that saying that like every accomplishment begins with the decision to try. And it kind of sounds like that was your kind of journey. Like, okay, I'm going
Yeah.
to do this. And instead of trying, it was to do. Like, I'm going to do it. I'm not going to try it.
Yeah.
I'm going to do this. Every accomplishment begins with the, decision
I like
to
that. Yeah.
do, not try, just do. And that's what it sounds like you've just did. And I mean, you make it look easy, but
Yeah,
definitely
it
never
hasn't
is.
like my discs in my back are now protruding instead of bulging. So they're a little bit worse, and there'd be days where I can't do anything, but I come just to sit in the back and do my band or whatever, just so I
Mhm.
can see people, just so I can say
Mhm.
good morning to Leah there, say hi to Penny back there that I always talk to. It's the community, it's the people. So
Yeah,
it's been an experience.
I've had back issues too since my son was a baby. We were just talking about it last week. There was a day that my back went out when our now 18-year-old son was still in a crib, and Jeff had to come home and lift our son out of bed because I couldn't get him out of the crib.
Yeah.
I was just laying on the floor, keeping him entertained in his crib until Jeff came home to pull him out of the bed. And
Yeah.
I've had a significant back injury a couple of years ago, and it was probably about, I don't know, a 2-year process of healing because I ignored it for too long also.
Mhm.
But my mantra during that time was like, I'm not going to let the 10 things I can't do keep me from the 25 things I can do. I can still do some things. I can't do everything, but do what I can, and I'm still doing better than if I just stopped. Because if
Yeah.
that stuff's going to happen, and if you don't learn how to adapt to it, then you're just going to go backwards constantly. So it wasn't always like just, grit through. It was a matter of like, okay, stop doing that and do something else instead.
Mhm. Yeah.
Is that, I'm assuming that you're had similar experience with that.
Yeah. I mean, It hasn't been easy. But, like, and I tell people, like, your level 10 today isn't what maybe your level 10 last week and last month was, like,
Mhm.
and I try not to look at it as like, oh, I've gotten so far and now I'm just like backpedaling and I'm losing everything. And it's like, no, like I can still, this and this, but
Yep.
yeah.
That's really important. Well, let's take our last break and then we come back. We'll finish with your advice to somebody who is maybe thinking about making any type of change in with their health and fitness. So we'll kind of end on that after this break.
So stay with us. 93.7 The Ticket, the Fitness Fanatics. All right, welcome back. Final segment here of Fitness Fanatics. We have been joined by Kaitlyn Willis, the female national challenge winner for Farrell's Extreme Body Shaping. I have all your stats here. I just wanted to run through these real quick.
Oh, and Harrison's going to show your little picture too.
Yes, so Harrison's going to put your picture up so everybody can see. Oh my gosh, you're famous. Okay, so over your year transformation, you lost, I know this is breaking information to you. I'm telling you, like, it's a secret. You lost 56 inches. Your body fat percentage went from 37.3 to 18.8. You lost 77 pounds on the scale. I remember you said you did 1 push-up on day 1, which means you did 54 push-ups for your final testing because you had a 53 push-up increase, which is amazing. And then you did your sit-up changed by 35 sit-ups. How many sit-ups did you do the day 1?
20.
Oh, you beat me. I did 10 my first day.
So you did 55 sit-ups at the end, which is awesome.
Yeah, that's awesome. Great job.
Yes.
So what would your advice be to somebody who's listening to this and is just like, okay, maybe I need to do something different. Maybe it's Farrell's, or if you don't have a Farrell's near you, it's just anything. But what would your advice be?
Yeah, I mean, I would just say, change isn't comfortable. It's not going to be easy from the beginning. And there's obviously going to be days when it's not easy, but your body will adjust, your mind will adjust. It will become the new normal. But taking baby steps, finding little things that you can change here and there, maybe drinking an ounce extra water a day and increasing it, or, just little things like that. Like I said, change isn't comfortable, but starting somewhere is better than not starting at all. So.
And staying the same isn't comfortable either. Like, think of where you would be right now if you hadn't started with that mental health kind of focus, where you weren't just like, okay, I need to do something different. Where, think about where you would be now. I think that sometimes we tend to be really hard on ourselves too about giving ourselves a measuring stick that's maybe not realistic. But the reality is we only think about what we could have done different to lead to a better result, but we don't think about what we could have also done worse and have ourselves be in a worse off position in 10 weeks or in 1 year. Because that, I think for you, like all of those stats that we shared, that's great. And they look really good on paper and it looks good in a picture and in marketing. But the reality is, like, your mental health, you were in a really, really dark place. And it honestly gave you something to focus on. Right. And then that you kind of started getting that positive kind of reinforcement from it. So I think that might've been kind of the biggest win for you. Right.
Yeah, no, truly. And then being able to find like other things through the Farrell's journey, like now getting back into running. I think I ended my year challenge with a 7:27 mile and I started at 13. So just being able to like, take that time for myself. I found a place where I can find friendship. I can have that 45 minutes to myself. I give back. We bring pizza to kickboxing events, like I want nothing to be able to help and inspire, and hopefully somebody else can change their life the way that Farrell's has changed my life.
That's the circle of Farrell's.
It is.
Which is what I call.
Yeah, it really
is. So cool how, you started, did your 10 weeks, you were terrified, you didn't know what was going on. And then now you're an instructor helping. And that's like what I tell, about our instructors here in Lincoln and all the instructors. I mean, it's not a full-time job. Like, you're not making a career out of instructing a couple classes a week at Farrell's, right? So most of our instructors begin teaching because Farrell's helped change their life, and now they want to help change others. And that's the circle of Farrell's.
And it becomes another stepping stone of like, I mean, when I started Farrell's, I did it because I was a stay-at-home mom and I really wanted to get out of the house and see my friends again. I mean, that's why in hindsight now, it was really more for my mental health than it was for the physical part of it. But now I got derailed because I just went back to that really dark place. I know. 18 years before.
I work at the office too. So it's like, I get to like, that's like I look at it like the restaurant is ours, but like my husband, that's always been his having that. And like, I get to work at Farrell's. I get to be there. Like, that's my little thing.
That's that's where I was going with that. Because when I started Farrell's, it wasn't like, okay, I'm going to start this program and someday I'm going to be an owner of the gym.
Yeah, we didn't grow up thinking we were going to be gym owners.
Never. I was a stay-at-home mom. Like, and then I did the same thing. I helped in the office, and then I became the manager, and then we became an owner, and then we moved here, and now we own 2 locations. So it's like that. Even when I started, it wasn't to be our career.
No,
but it just happened that way.
And
So I think that it's just so important to stick to, if you have something that you want to do, stick with it, stick through the hard part, and you just never know what's going to come out on the other end. So,
all right, Kaitlyn. Well, that is the music that tells us our show is sadly coming to an end.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, we appreciate hearing your story.
A lot of great info for everybody. Appreciate that.
Yep. So stick with it and keep helping to change people's lives.
Thank you so much for having me on.
All right.
Absolutely.
All right. Take care.
You too. Bye.
All right.